Today we are not going to talk about AI or about the Magnificent Seven. We did that over the last couple of weeks, and today we are talking about more a completely different industry.
Yeah.
About two German companies.
Industrials. No?
Yeah.
Say that.
And two maybe hidden gems. And I think with all the problems in the world, there are several problems at this moment, and one of them is the water problem. We are in the south of Spain, and we have the problem that there is not enough water. But in other places in the world, there is too much water. I don't know exactly the figures. The amount of water stays always the same on this planet, and I think that something like 95% of the water is salt. Yeah. We talked about it a couple of months ago, I think, about the possibilities to change salt water to sweet water. So if you want to know more about that and to invest in that, look back for the vlog of a couple of months. Today we're going to talk about two companies, and they need each other. Or if you are in the real production process, you need both companies.
Correct.
And maybe from an easiest way, I will start, because I'm talking right now.
Yes, that's good.
And I'm going to talk about a German company. It's not too big, but it's also not too small. And it's a company that we don't see that a lot of investors hold them in their portfolio, but it's really interesting. It is called KSB. It's what we said, a German manufacturer of mainly pumps. And pumps, of course, I don't have to explain what they can do with water, but they're really inventive with all the ways of changing the water place from one place to another place. They are active in 150 countries. They exist already since 1871. They went already public in 1887. So they have a long history with producing their products, but also on the stock market. 50% is almost around the free float, so that you can really buy. And they have, last year in 2023, they had revenues of almost 3 billion. And if you look back 3 years before, every year the revenues grow, the profits grow quite steadily. And based on the last year profit earnings per share are almost 80, and the actual share price is 640. That makes it's a PE of only 8, and it's expected that the revenues and the profit will grow with 12% for the coming year. So you pay it now already for 8 times the profit, and that's really that's low. But also, and then that was how is it in the industry? How is it with the peers? It is low. Almost 16,000 people work in the company.
That's
KSB.
That's a lot.
I heard of it, but I didn't know a lot about it. And some people say in the industry it's like a hidden gem. There is only one analyst that follows it. So that's quite strange, no? Because your company is a little bit smaller.
No, not a little. It's a lot smaller.
But more analysts.
Three analysts on it. Yeah. But maybe it's because it's European small cap. Something that you have some people that follow them specifically. But yeah, funny.
It's trading 75% below its estimate fair value. 75%. If you look at the share price, it went up in the last years. If you look at the volatility, then it's lower than the industry. I think I have a chart that we'll put in the screen, and that's also that's why I said this can be a stock for buy and hold investors, because it's growing steadily. The assets, around 2.6 billion of assets and only 50 million of debt. This is nothing. They also pay out a dividend. That's not really consistent. It was also a little bit what I said, what I saw about a little bit a negative aspect on it, but 23 euros on a share price of 640 makes around 3% dividends. Also, share price. What I said, the share price versus the fair value. You see that in this chart or in this overview. Then it's enormous. If you look at the price earnings relate to the peers, it's also really low. If you look into the industry, it's also really well positioned. And if you look at the return on equity, it is now around 16, but it will go up to almost 20. So I think from a fundamental perspective, and what they are doing, they're also active in China.
How much is the return on equity?
It's going to the 20. It's 16 now. And they're also active in China. I think it's the third country in the world where they get the revenues from. So it's, of course, it can be a product that can be copied by the Chinese, but they're active in China. So they work with local, and I look on the internet what they have really amazing products in Thailand and in Egypt. And I think it's people know the problems with the water, and they have with their pumps and with their. Oh yeah, the last thing I want to say is that in Europe, 40% of all the energy is used by the building sector. And they are really, of course, they are their pumps are mainly. They also make pumps for you and me, but mainly for the industry. And they are really focused on more going to the zero emission in 2050. They really contribute to that. And I think the water problem is here to stay.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. And water needs to flow through something, and that generally goes through a tube or a hose. And one of the market leaders, it's a small company, but it's still doing a lot of work, is Masterflex. Masterflex AG, also listing on the German stock market. Funny, it has a lot of connections with Dutch company Alberts, which is quite bigger. Alberts makes connections mainly for beer taps, but also Masterflex is having connections to connect to the pumps of KSB, in this case of Casper. Funny, also one of the supervisors of the board, Mr. Jan van der Zwaal, is also supervisor of the board of Albert. So there's a lot of similarities in those two companies. Masterflex trading at this moment at around €8. The earnings per share are 80 cents, so it's approximately 10 times the earnings. Dividend is also not so bad. It's about 3%, which is okay. Of course, it's not a tremendous, but it is sort of like okay. And similar to KSB, they have also increasing figures each year after year after year. So in 2021, they had a revenue of 75 million approximately. 2023, last year, was 104 million, so increase in revenue. The net income was going from 3 million to 8 million. So as we see, of course, we're talking about millions, not billions here, but still quite a big company. The assets have gone from 80 to 95 million. Return on equity, I asked you to double, because they are also increasing from 7.6% to 16% to almost 18% for last year. So also they're capable of.
Can also be a company that is relatively small, so can be bought by another
yeah,
company.
maybe that's also one of the things I directly thought about when I saw this same supervisor of the board, that maybe there is already some connection there, you know. But it's a company that's been around for a long time, and please look at their website as well. They make really interesting tubes, like spiral hoses for like we have here. Sometimes you hear it in our vlog. It's a tube that extracts that makes sure that we can breathe down here in our studio. Target price by 3 analysts, 14.43. And there was only one point which caught my attention, but it also does not have to be too much of a problem, is the quick ratio. That was quite low, and the quick ratio basically indicates how quick with short-term cash availables you can pay off debts. And in their case, they're at 0.73, and you could say that a ratio of 1 is good. So the majority of their peers, except one, are at 183, 2.2, so they are scoring slightly less positive on that. So their financing is made on a longer term basis. They don't have so much short term cash available. Yeah, so we look at the analyst forecast for the price earnings. Expectations for 2027 are at 120. So yeah, do your math. 10 times the earnings, you get a share price of around 12. So also here, of course, these companies are smaller. It's a sidestep of investing in the artificial intelligence sector, which we've been talking about now for weeks. But I think interesting. It's old-fashioned investing, I would say. You pick a stock and you believe in their model and you want to participate in their growth. It could be something to consider for the stock picking.
Yeah, I think investors should look at their portfolio more on sectors, you know, and you believe in the sector. And then, of course, if you have companies that provide solutions for the problems in the sector, and I think this sector, the water sector, has huge problems. Yeah. This is one of these are two companies that can help make solutions, and we are looking for solutions.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching.
Give us a thumb, and we'll see you next week.